call.
Johnny Warren,
Present.
Zane Gaither, Chris Caliber, Elise Harden, Keisha Matlock, Mary Davis,
Present.
Candace Williams,
Present.
Gary Gatchmark,
Here.
James Clyburn,
Present.
Rustin Rosen, Romeo, Ryan Thompson,
Present.
Tom Pablo,
Here.
Jay Top, Mark Garrett, Dan Marinucci,
Here.
Ed Graham, Arlene Perez.
Steve? Yeah. He's taking the place, are you taking?
Yeah, here.
Okay, Brian,
Yeah, present.
All right, thank you.
Right, that's right, okay. Okay, is there any correspondence? Council Clerk, did we see any correspondence, letters or anything?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, no.
All right. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 14th, 2023? We had the minutes and it was part of the thing and it was a drop down.
Right, but that was a complaint last week. They hadn't read.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago.
Is that really-
May I ask a question? Is it record commission minutes or that's not?
This is the regular council meeting for the February 14th.
I got February 28th, I don't have the 14th. Before I have all the other ones, but I don't have the 14th. The only thing I have on the 14th is records commission.
Okay, well then we'll defer
I'm sorry.
February 14th.
I'm sorry.
May I get a motion to approve the February 28th, 2023 finance meeting?
So moved.
Roll call?
Warren,
Yes.
Gaither, Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
May I get a motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 28th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Warren,
Yes.
Gaither, Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
May I get a motion to approve the regular council meeting for March 14th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Warren,
Yes.
Gaither,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
May I get a motion to approve the finance meeting of March 21st minutes for March 21st, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
all right. Warren,
Yes.
Gaither, Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
And
In the minutes, it has a star by, so the ones that have stars, that just mean in the minutes. So does that mean you're absent? Because you didn't put absent, because you could stick to these couple people. So I didn't know, I mentioned it there, or you just came in. Okay, okay, because it doesn't say,
Yeah.
okay.
it usually does say.
Mhm.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, I looked for it, and I couldn't, and I was gonna ask today before, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 21st, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Warren,
Yes.
Gaither,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Okay. There's no correspondence. We'll have departmental reports. May we hear from our fire chief?
Good evening, thank you, Mr. President. Not too much to report from fire. We've been busy, doing the regular fire EMS thing. We've also been busy with some of the new businesses that are building and renovating in town. We've been reviewing the plans with Sophie Bioscience. been in the Interstate McBee several times as they're kind of wrapping up and coming to an end. And we've also been in the Reflections several times, making sure that they're meeting the codes as they're renovating. Other than that, University Hospitals started, as of last month, they're using our fire department as a host site for their monthly Con Ed series, which is a bunch of neighboring departments. They go to one city, and University Hospitals reached out and asked if they could use Oakwood Fire as one of their sites. So we're gonna start doing that once a month. Other than that, that's all we have to report.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
What, can you remind me your name again?
My name is Brian DiRocco.
Okay. Are you the assistant?
I
fire chief or
am
fire chief?
currently the captain, acting, my title right now is acting assistant fire chief.
Okay. And how long have you been in that role?
Captain or acting assistant fire chief?
Are you both captain and?
I'm sworn, my last sworn title was captain, which is 6 years.
Okay.
And I've been acting as the assistant fire chief since last March.
So about 13 months or so?
That's correct.
Are there other assistant fire chiefs as well?
There's another gentleman that acts in that role as well, Chris Manzo.
So there's currently 2 acting assistant fire chiefs?
That's correct.
Okay. Are there other captains as well?
No, myself and Mr. Manzo are both the sworn captains, so no one is acting up to that role currently right now.
So there's no one acting in the captain role, but you're acting in the assistant fire chief?
That's correct.
And that happened about 13 months ago?
That's correct.
Did you have a pay increase with that title change?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so who is the fire chief right now?
The fire chief is still Jim Shade.
Okay,
The acting fire chief is Dave Tapp.
what was the acting fire chief's role before he became the acting fire chief?
He was the acting fire chief, Dave Tapp, is the assistant chief, or was the assistant chief.
Okay. And he's still also the assistant fire chief?
That's correct. That's probably his last sworn position, I would imagine.
Okay, so technically, he is the assistant fire chief in that role and the acting fire chief?
That's correct.
Okay. Have you had any discussions about a pay increase with the title?
With the assistant fire chief / acting fire chief, cause, the plan is when stuff gets finalized, you get a pay increase, but never since then.
Has there been any estimate around finalization?
I do not have an estimate.
Okay. So, let me just make sure I'm clear, because there's some information that I asked for that I have not gotten. So I just figure I may as well just go directly to the source and record.
Sure.
So there's technically 2 fire chiefs,
No, I'd say technically there's one fire chief.
technically 1 fire chief and 1 acting fire chief.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. And then there's technically 2 acting assistant fire chiefs and an assistant fire chief.
Yeah, correct. The person who's the assistant fire chief is the acting fire chief.
And there is technically 2 captains, but no acting captains.
That is correct.
Okay. And this has been about 13 months since you've had this structure.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Greco,
Yes.
can I ask you a question? Why is there 2, do you know why there's 2 assistant fire chiefs instead of 1, like we always had, or no?
We've always had one, that's
Okay.
correct. When Dave Tapp took over that role as the acting fire chief, I think his thoughts moving forward were that, the department has grown pretty substantially since we had one assistant chief, one fire chief back when we had 30 personnel. And now we're close to 70 personnel. So, and then, we grew a lot with taking Rundle, Walt Hill. So, I think he realizes that it's gonna take, since they're the acting or the assistant fire chiefs are part-time positions, to have some continuity and make sure there's a chief officer there every day in case we get, you know, large-scale incident, fire, or just the business of the department. That he thought it would be best to run it with that lineup of a chief and two assistant chiefs eventually.
So you just, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No,
I
okay.
just wanted to ask a question, then, so you guys work opposite days, you and the other captain?
That's correct.
Opposite
That's
days,
correct.
that's okay.
Remember, they're working full-time elsewhere. To
So,
make sure we have a coverage here, and again, particularly, we don't understand, again, 10, 15 years ago, we only had all part-time, and they were only, most of them were EMTs. Now they're all paramedics, which they can perform drug therapy here. And at the same, was by picking up Walton Hills from Bedford and Glen Willow from Solon. It's amazing that those two entities that wanted to be in Oakwood rather than be served by Solon or by Bedford. Additionally, now, as you're just hearing, UH wants to use this as their hub for training. So we have to give kudos to our fire department for the high level of performance that they have here.
so just based on something you said, so am I understanding that you said to make sure there's an acting person in the role, and I noticed that when we had the fire explosion that the acting, I'm trying to remember all the roles, the acting fire chief signed off as the fire chief. So is that because Jim Shea is not acting daily in that role?
I don't know why he signed off as the chief and not the acting chief, or why he would have signed off either way, I don't know. But because, like I said, Dave Tapp has been doing the role of fire chief since last year.
Got it. So I've asked for an executive session once or twice regarding this. Can anybody explain why we have acting assistants in these different roles? Is there a structure that the department requires, like you must have one fire chief, one assistant? Is there any structure?
There's structure. It's in our codified ordinance. We have the makeup of our department, which is one chief. Currently, it's one chief, one assistant chief, 2 captains, 8 lieutenants, and the remainder firefighter paramedics, up to a maximum of 70 personnel. That's how it's worded. And that's including all the officers.
Thank you, that is very helpful.
And for the record, there has been no request for an executive session to discuss fire department in its system.
That's not true.
If you
However,
refer to
let me,
members of council
so,
confirm
let me
that.
make sure I'm clear.
Sure.
We have something that states there's supposed to be one chief, one assistant chief, and 2 captains. But we have 2 captains, 3 acting or assistant fire chiefs, and 2 fire chief acting. That's our current structure.
So currently we have 1 sworn chief, we have 1 sworn assistant chief, we have 2 sworn captains and 8 sworn lieutenants. Dave Tapp's just been acting in the capacity of the chief in his absence, and we've been, myself and Captain Manzo have been acting as assistant chiefs, assisting Dave Tapp, who's acting as the chief. But nobody is sworn. in that
Not
way.
sworn,
That's
thank
correct.
you. Okay, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So let me do this now. I'm requesting an executive session because it seems to me that, one, if we have this many chiefs, acting, assistant, it affects the budget in some way. And if it doesn't affect the budget, I'm wondering why we have people acting in roles that they're not being compensated for. In addition to, I'm wondering where our fire chief actually is if this has been going on for 13 months. So I am requesting an executive session, and I want to make it clear that I'm requesting.
Okay, we can move forward to have an executive session to discuss that.
Okay. In addition to, I would like the information that I requested on March 31st. You reached out to me on April 10th and said it would be about 2 weeks. That would have been April 24th,
Yeah,
yesterday.
Sure. The information you requested on some of the salary information we're compiling. You came back and reached for like some older information, so we had to gather that in the prior financial system. So I'm down a couple key players in finance. I'm diligently looking to replace those players, and I'm logistically doing all the roles right now. But the salary information will still be working on it compiled. The other information and modifying the budget is going to remain in status quo right now as the postal majority in terms of separating salaries and the other information.
Why is it remaining in status quo when I requested it be separated out?
Yeah, but the postal majority of council in the format that it's in with line detail the way we submitted.
What is the post? When did you discuss the post? Well, was I not present?
No, it's just information in terms of how we submitted in the finance committee meeting. In that
Did I
format.
miss the finance committee meeting?
Some meetings you may have not been at, but
No, since I requested they be separated out.
no, we haven't had a meeting, so.
Okay.
But the information that I do provide, it does separate the salaries and the non-operating expenses.
Side by side, when we go through that
Yeah, you can see
information.
them, yeah,
So,
by line item.
since you're not going to put them side by side and separate them out in the actual report, I wanna make sure that you go over that when we do finance.
Okay, yeah, we can discuss that in that manner.
Now, what I requested was salaries for year-end salaries for 2018, 19, 20, 21, and 22.
Right.
So 5 years, year-end. How do you record information that is taking you so long to get me year-end information for those years?
Well, what happened, we bought a new financial system, and the prior information, like 18, 19, 20, is in the prior information that we have to put in, like a support ticket to get that information. So we are in the process of compiling that information, and hopefully get that completed for you soon.
So 2018, 2019, and 2020 are in a.
Prior financial
I'm
system.
sorry, I don't mean to be rude. I don't have any more questions of you.
Okay.
I was just
Yeah.
trying to get that information because it's been difficult. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So 18, 19, and 20, you're saying you don't have access to because we changed systems?
No, we
in-
do, we have to just put in a support ticket to get the
And
information.
you have not done that yet?
Yeah, we have,
Okay. So 21 and 22, you do have access to?
yes.
Okay. When can you give me those since you have access to those?
Those we can get you fairly quickly. I was gonna give you a full report so you can have a full analysis of your information, but if you just want 21, 22, we can get those.
I do want all of them, but if you could get me those two as soon as you can for those roles,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
The roles we just discussed and the ones in the email. Okay.
May we hear from our building inspector?
Thank you, Council President. Just a quick note, the days of the solar panels between $60,000 and $70,000, well, they're 1/3 the cost now, I think they're a little bit less than 20 grand, maybe a little bit more than 12,000, depending on the sizes and all that. I don't know if that's governmental assistance or if that's just the technology got, more competitive. But I could tell you that the engineers and everything out of these is from like Washington DC, from Connecticut, nobody local. They're all from out of town. And even the installers are not local either. So it may be governmental funding. So that's going really good, and we've gotten a few of them this past year. So that number's coming down. And then we sent out all we're waiting for returns now on the money coming in for the rental properties. That's been all gone. We sent you a report, the best we can do in our system. And I do realize that I think there's some properties that may be rented out that we're unaware of. I think that exists everywhere. And just a real quick note, LLCs are still dominant in here, and even Jim can tell you a lot about it. But we've been processing them and holding them to
Same standard that
a
we know.
strict standards. And now that we have the building official meetings where you have face-to-face contact, we're gathering a lot of information from other jurisdictions on that issue. And then I'm here for questions.
I have a question.
Okay.
What is the cost of the building permit for you guys to check out for solar panels, or do you
Oh,
have somebody else?
it's a function, and this is where a little twist is, okay, it's a function of total cost. And once people realize that, if the total cost is $60,000 and you represent $20,000, well, you're paying $20,000. But, the contractors, when they fill out the forms and they fill out the information, it's pretty thorough. And understanding, that cost, if it's a $20,000 cost today, which it is, that will not show the cost of to the person who's putting it in, because you need an engineering evaluation, and that's not free. Some of them need specialty stuff on the electric, that when we get the drawings, they're pretty intense. They're very well done. So it's only a select group that does it.
Okay, so it's not your department, you guys?
No, we do the review, I do the reviews. on
Okay,
it.
okay, that's what I was
Yes,
wondering.
but I would rather see a high stamped engineers on it than, other states. This Minnesota's one of them, I think they're coming in. We're getting a lot from other states on different projects. Okay,
Any other questions?
thank you.
And we hear from our service director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just beside the day-to-day stuff, last couple of weeks, we've, we started on flower beds. Today, we just started cleaning the decks on the bridges for the winter, all the gravel getting on the sidewalks on the bridges, and we started on the Alexander Bridge today. That'll be half a week project to do that stuff, give and take. And we did pick up branches the last couple of weeks, and we don't have it's one we talked about before, we don't have a chipper. That's one service we don't have here in Oakwood, but after storms, we usually go around and pick up branches after a storm, and that's it. We did have a Cambridge, I had a call yesterday, a catch basin that was caving in. So we fixed that today, this morning. You guys went there for a couple hours and repaired that. And on that note, I was with the engineer last week on a different job, and we were talking about it. I said, yeah, the catch basins in the meadows was pretty bad. I said, we fixed quite a few of those in the last 2 years, and he informed me we weren't supposed to fix those. So not that we weren't supposed to, but it's up to the association to fix those from now on. So we'll keep our hands off those catch basins and notify them from now on. Any questions?
Do you have a contact person in the association that we can facilitate those type of,
They keep
services?
changing. I've talked to them over the years. In fact, I probably talked to the gentleman from the association more in Bedford Heights over the last few years, but they usually contact me, or I can get that. It's
Also
on
for the maintenance of those other areas that are like,
the common areas,
common areas.
the wetlands.
Right.
But they usually end up calling us for help, but a lot of that stuff is not really ours. It's supposed to be their responsibility.
And we gotta make that incumbent upon them.
Yeah.
To organize themselves, and maybe that they need the assistance to get organized.
Yeah.
In order to be able to respond to those maintenance needs of the common areas.
Yeah. We've tried to help in the past, even, they got the expensive mailboxes, and, if a resident can't handle, we've told them where to get them, because we had to find out where to get them. Because, we had a problem on Richmond Road 3 winters ago, kept going down, the ones on Richmond, the expensive mailboxes, so. First couple, they went on again, we weren't hitting them, because I know when we go by there, when we don't go by there. But Bedford Heights is being nice to us, and Solon's being nice to us, the cities of, and they were, probably hitting it down with the power of the slush, or even hitting with the mailbox, so. Told the people there, we got them, we bought a couple, not for each person, we bought a couple, and said, we're not buying any more. We bought them guards to go on there. If you go by there now, the ones that Richmond have those guards that we put up for them, 2 winters ago. And then we said, we're washing our hands of this unless we know we hit them. But so since we put those up, there hasn't been a problem. A car knocked down the guard and the mailbox in an accident, the one closest to Solon Road last winter, but, it was obviously a car accident, so they fixed that themselves.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
And we hear from our finance director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to recap, to clear up maybe any misunderstanding from the prior meeting. Whenever we go into making any amendments to the budget, or whether it's a partial budget or 100% budget for the Village of Oakwood, we always add attachments, when we submit the, information to council. So that's always been the practice in the past, and we have, submitted those attachments. And,
But you know that's not true, correct?
it's true.
No, in
We have, and it's been
2020,
submitted to state auditors.
it may have been submitted to the state auditor, but when that legislation was approved, and it's actually in the minutes where it says, will you let us see this once it's complete? So it was passed without an attachment. That is factual for those two pieces of, and I don't have the numbers in front of me,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it
it's
is
there.
in the record.
If anybody wanted to do
It's
It
in the
may have
record.
been added, but it was not at, the conversation was that legislation was passed without the attachment at that time, and that was actually factual. It was
submitted-
not there.
It was submitted to the body council.
The bottom, the
It may
bottom,
have been submitted after the fact, but
No, it
the
wasn't after the fact,
conversation
it was
was,
during the, time we were passing the budget and putting it in review.
may I just
but at
interject
the
to
time
let
the
you,
legislation was passed, it was not attached.
at the time that the legislation was passed, my piece of legislation that I signed off on, it was passed and it was attached.
When you sign off, you
When
don't
I
sign
sign-
off on it in the meeting though, you sign off of it, you sign off after the fact, correct?
Right after the meeting, yes.
Okay. When it was passed, when the vote was taken, it was not actually attached. So I don't know if he went and got it, and then at the end of the meeting, when you signed after it concluded, then you had an attachment. But when the legislation passed and the vote was taken, there was no attachment. That is a fact.
Well, I had the legislation in front of me with the document, and so I did, and when I did sign it, it had the attachment in the budget with it, for the record.
That is not a fact. So
For the
you
record.
had it and you withheld it from other
No,
council
what I'm saying
members?
is that it was here, and everybody was reading off the legislation.
No, that's not. The minutes say that it was not present. I don't know why we're even
No,
arguing
what I'm
this
saying is
fact.
that the legislation that I had presented to me to sign off for the budget, the legislation and the budget was attached, is all I'm saying, and I do sign off on the budget and and all legislation at the end of the council
Okay,
meeting.
to be clear, the conversation was when the legislation was passed and the vote was taken, that the minutes show that there was no attachment at the time. Now, if after the meeting, when you went to sign, it appeared, then that's one thing. If it was there for you, that's
Well, that's what I'm
another thing.
clarifying.
But the conversation is, and the fact is, that when it was passed and the vote was taken, there was no attachment at all. Those are two different things. So if
Okay.
it appeared afterwards, the legislation was still passed by council members without that attachment. That is fact. It's in the minutes.
Okay, it's in the minutes, but again, like I said, we reviewed the legislation, it was amended, and when I signed it, the legislation and the budget was attached to the
Okay.
legislation.
But these are different conversations. If that's what you're claiming, that is different than the conversation from before. And it's different than what he's actually
Wasn't that the
saying.
conversation that I had
So
before?
we're
but
having different, we're talking apples and oranges.
Okay, I understand. And going forward, and we have made this, that all legislation with the council members will be attached and everything that's related to the legislation. Sometimes we have in a budget that we revise and revise another legislation that we revise. The legislation and the ordinance is still there, but the legislation, the attachments sometimes change because we ask you for amendments or we go to tell you to come back and change or reduce or change legislation, and we're all here to confirm that.
But that's different. That's
Okay.
different. An amendment is different than there being no attachment at all. So
Okay.
we're not gonna conflate the two. Those are two different things.
Okay.
If an amendment is asked for, then that's changed after the fact, but it would have had to be something to be amended in the first place. What we're
Right.
saying is that there was no attachment, and you can look in our minutes and in our records, and it shows there was no attachment. So
Okay.
to try to
Okay.
clarify that on record, to say that it wasn't true, and it's factually on record that it was true.
No, what I'm saying is to clarify the record so it won't be any distortion of the assumption of the record that the legislation that I signed had the attachment with it.
Okay, that's different than the comment he made.
Okay, just to
Yeah.
wrap up. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Only a couple more comments, just, we're diligently looking to, fill a couple key positions in finance, so, just bear with us.
Right, and we understand that some of the things that are requested, you don't have the payroll, you have the payroll person, but you don't have the accounts receivable person and the accounts payable person, which you're being in their stead and acting in their stead too.
Yes.
So we have to be patient and understand that we are working under staff, but we will be getting the information.
How many positions are you looking to fill?
2,
What are those positions?
finance administrator and, accounts payable / payroll assistant.
How many interviews have been conducted so far?
Did about, 6 interviews.
And so yesterday, or today, we canceled our finance meeting. I know we lost income from iShuman. I know we're supposed to have income coming in towards the end of the year. To not have a finance meeting amidst that, let me ask a different question, or let me ask a question. What months have you closed out up to this point?
We closed out through February. We would have normally discussed, close out of March at this time, but with, the short staff, we haven't been able to compile all the information, but we're working on getting that completed.
So February has been closed out,
Yes.
and we had a meeting about February at the end of March, March 21st.
Yeah, we had our February meeting to
So-
discuss those.
March has not been closed out.
Right, which would, yes, not closed, which we would discuss by the end of this month. We were working on closing March.
When will you have March closed?
I can't really say it this time with the structure with the staff out, but, I'm working with the, gentleman who's actually in place is coming partially to assist.
And I recommend that if you don't have the information by the second council meeting, usually we discuss the budget on the 4th council meeting, and at that time, we can do March and April.
So let me, and I'm not, if you do a consensus and ask other members, that's fine, but when March is closed out and our reports are ready, I would like to have them and not wait until May, the end of May. That's an awful long time to be waiting for March and April to be closed out. So as soon as you have those done, I would like to see those reports.
Okay, with normal operation, we do provide that week before we have a meeting, so.
Right. And so, like I said,
Let
we
me
can
go-
have
let
it
me-
either
Let me
the,
make sure I'm clear about what I was asking. So, we have to close out March,
Yes,
and then we'll have to close out April.
yes,
April, we would typically do
end of May,
the second meeting in May.
yes,
March would have been done this meeting.
yes.
Are you saying you won't have April's reports until nearly the end of May?
No, we'll look to have March and April by the end of May. Both months.
you saying that he wouldn't have Marches by the end of May, but he would, because April would typically be discussed at the end of May. So
I
March,
don't need, I don't need you to clear, what I'm
Well, March
asking
and
you is
April.
when March is closed out,
Yes,
I would like to have those reports as soon as they are closed out and not wait until the week before the 4th week in May. Do you?
yeah, I understand, which would have normally been closed for April. So you want the
Correct.
March reports?
I want
As soon
the
as they're
March
done.
reports as soon as you
Do
close
that.
those out.
right. And on the March reports, just so that you know, Brian, on the March reports, when you do have them, if it's prior to the first meeting in May, then we'll have them and discuss them on the first meeting in May.
Okay.
And although April isn't expected to be reviewed at all until the second meeting in May anyway. And I was just trying to clarify what was stated, that April would have been done. I'm just saying that April isn't expected to be completed and presented through the finance committee until the second meeting in May.
Correct.
So if in fact you have March is done prior to the first meeting in May, present it to council, and then we'll set up a meeting for that finance period, and then for the subsequent April finance period at the second meeting in May, and we'll be caught up. Hopefully you'll be staffed and we can move forward.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyway, for our law director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a busy week and a half here in Oakwood. On Friday, we had the groundbreaking, or the grand opening and the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Vet Center here on Broadway. From Washington DC, you had the Deputy Chief Officer of the Vet Center Counseling Services in the United States. You had the acting Midwest Director of the District Director. You had the Chief of Staff of the Ohio Veteran Services. You had the head Rolling Thunder, who gave a roll call for POWs and MRIs, which was very moving. You had the color guard of the Bedford VFW post here. You had the Bedford High School A Cappella Choir here. And again, it was a very moving ceremony. Additionally, I'm pleased to report that the federal government took this. I was concerned whether they'd be wanting to accept this or not. As you know, or you might not know, 22 veterans commit suicide every day in the United States. So this is a much needed service, this confidential counseling service that the Vet Center provides. However, I feel that strongly that there should be coupled with that some spiritual enrichment. And they are open to, and it won't be here, it'll be in our community center once a week, where we'll have a revivalist give now just gospel music for about 20 minutes. That will then be combined with him getting into developing a relationship, an intimate relationship with Jesus. And I think those two coupled together will make this a much stronger operation. And again, I was pleased to see that in fact even the federal government was willing to see this happen. There'll be no expense to Oakwood, and there'll be no in the revival. There will not be any asking for offerings. So very pleasing. Additionally, I had a 75-minute meeting on Friday with the Executive Director of Cuyahoga County, Chris Renee. He brought in his Director of Development for Cuyahoga County, Paul Herdig. We had here as well the Ohio State Senator from District 18, Jerry Serino. And it was nice of them to come here.
And the director, also the Director of Community Development for Cuyahoga County.
Yes. And we're looking for additional grants to Oakwood Village from the county, the state, and from the federal government. And I'll have a report on the results of that within about 6 weeks. We're very cautiously optimistic. Again, it was a very good sign that they came out here, and particularly again with the Executive Director of Cuyahoga County with his security. And we intend to be meeting again within the next three weeks or so. Today I met with Caterpillar, Ohio, and as you know, Council, you passed a 49% CRA along with a .40 non-school board TIF. So I explained that to them there. They're having a $4.5 million expansion, and they'll be creating 25 new jobs. But most interestingly, they're interested in the iShuman plant themselves. If in fact there isn't going to be a reopening because of just the damage done there, they're interested in buying the lot and expanding there at 5 more acres. So this is quite something. Again, having Ohio Caterpillar, which is a major operation, looking at even the Schumann property. I then went and visited Sophie, which was what our assistant or our captain was talking about, looking at their operations. It was formerly called IBA Molecular, and we're going to be offering them a 90% CRA, .48 non-school board TIF, and that legislation will be before you next week, or in the next council meeting. And it's quite exciting here that in fact, what they do is make injectables for PET scans. And their head operations are in Virginia and in California. But, they're having a $4.5 million expansion here. And as I say, it won't create as many jobs as 25, but it really underscores our brand of being a hub for high tech and very serious diagnostic medical research. And it was interesting because today, in fact, after I had seen her, the lady that's in charge there, that in fact their head person from Virginia was going to come by. And so it was great timing that he'll be seeing the incentives that we're offering Sophie in terms of what they're doing here. And lastly, I'd like to just ask for those that pray. Let's pray for our police chief. He's going through a scan today, diagnostic scan, and to see whether there's any other cancer in his system. So let's pray that in fact the outcome is positive and it'll be at full health. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Yes. Will you say that?
No.
Okay. Okay, I will now, I would like, prior to opening up the floor to public comment, we do have a guest, the illustrious Mr. Joseph Commander from Bedford Schools, the Bedford Athletic Director. Sir, would you come up?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And it's, you can give the correct spelling of your name.
Okay. Joseph, and then Commander, just like the military. So good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is J.C. Commander. I am the incoming athletic director for Bedford City Schools. Replacing the veteran, Mr. Mark Zofka, who has been there for a while. He's done a phenomenal job of kind of bringing me along slowly. So I'm currently transitioning in. I'm coming in from South Eagle Lyndhurst Schools. So I'm currently serving as the assistant athletic director there. So I kind of go on the clock August 1st here, but we know this is the kind of job where you can't really wait around. Hence, I'm here tonight. So what I did was I reached out to a couple of council members, Councilwoman Williams and Councilwoman Davis as well, who is former educator, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought it was just a good idea to kind of get out and meet the various people and municipalities that kind of feed into the school district. I know that Oakwood is one of the major cities that feeds into Bedford City Schools, so I just kind of wanted to kind of put faces with names and let everybody know that, you know, I'll be bugging you and in your emails, inviting you to games and things of that nature. I'd like to take advantage of all opportunities to show the communities what the school districts offer and the good things that we're doing with our kids.
That's great. We appreciate it, especially with a 4-community serving one school. And that's a challenge in itself for a director to try to bring all the communities together and give them equal attention.
Yes. Yeah. But we will.
Yep.
So it's great to be a Bearcat. That's kind of what we live by.
Right.
Right. Thank you for the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have a visitor from NOPEC. And we've been talking about NOPEC in our previous meetings, and can you give the clerk your name?
Tony Ramos, RAMOS. Good evening, counselors, Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I appreciate having a couple of minutes of your time.
Thank you.
And glad to see you back in Oakwood.
Thank you.
How many do you have? A few extras? If you do, could you pass them to the residents?
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody with uniforms, don't give them. Just-
Got it. Are you all residents here? I'm gonna keep one for 1 second, just so I have to. I and then I'll give it to
Maybe we need a
You
few
can
more.
give it to you.
We'll get a few more made.
Yeah.
Oh, just give it to D over there.
you. Well, I'll hold on to
Yeah.
that. Good evening. So, I just kind of want to briefly take a couple minutes and give you the 30,000-foot level of what has been happening in the last couple weeks and touch on the re-enrollment letters for electricity and the anniversary letter for natural gas. So as you know, last summer, we returned all of our customers back to the utility and basically put our electric aggregation program on pause. We navigated a process with our regulators in Columbus and obtained a recertification to restart the electric aggregation at the end of March. So in mid-March, residents would have started receiving their electric re-enrollment letter. So NOPEC will restart the electric aggregation program with the June meter read. So depending on when a resident has their June meter read, that will be when they will restart. The opt-out letter is the same that it has always been. If a resident got the opt-out letter and they decide that they do not want to participate in the aggregation program, they can fill out the opt-out card, mail it back, fax it back, or they can call and opt out. And we recently added that they can take a picture of the opt-out card and email that to us as well. Starting this past Monday, natural gas opt-out letters started hitting mailboxes. And the village is both a gas and electric member community with NOPEC. Again, the process is the same. They want to participate, they don't do anything. If they want to opt out and not participate, then they opt out by sending a card. Our electric pricing is extremely competitive. If you've been paying attention to the news, you have probably seen that the utilities price to compare or standard service offering is going to go from about 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour and go up to 12.2 cents a kilowatt hour. So much like what happened to NOPEC last year when we found ourselves buying in a high market and our price was up here, the utility who was lower because they had purchased electricity at a different time at a lower price, the process now is inverted. The utility had to buy high, and we are recommending, and if you call the utility, they will recommend too, do not stay on the standard service offer when it comes June. Your bill will go up. If a resident decides that they don't want to participate in NOPEC, they have options, and we always recommend that they visit Energy Choice Ohio, or if you've ever looked up rates, it's apples to apples. It's the easiest thing to Google, apples to apples Ohio, and it will show you all of the different current offers that for-profit energy suppliers are offering in Ohio. I like to remind NOPEC is a member-driven organization. We're a council of governments, so Oakwood is a member community, and then you have a say in what happens at NOPEC. Cuyahoga County's board, NOPEC Board of Director representative is Mayor Georgine Wheelo of South Euclid. She's our vice chairwoman of our board of directors. But if you have questions that you are receiving from residents that you can't answer, you can always send them to our customer care, which is, they answer that phone 365, 7 days a week. Or if it's something I can answer, then I will answer it as well. Let's see, what else? If you call the call center right now, call volumes are really high. When we mailed out our opt-out letters, because gas and electric is falling at the same time, it's over 1 million Ohioans, residential and small business customers that received opt-out letters. Best time to call is on the weekend or after 6 p.m. During the week. It's kind of the high level. We're back. We're excited to be back. We're excited to continue to support our member communities.
And we welcome you back.
Thank you. We appreciate that. But I'll answer any questions you have, and with your permission, if somebody behind me has a question, I'm happy to answer that question and any questions you may have.
How long is your current rate good for?
So the standard program rate that everybody will roll back into, that 6.45 cents starts with the June meter read, and it is fixed at that rate until December. 30 days before January 1st, we will publish what the rate will be starting in January. The standard program rate has never been a fixed rate, it's always been a market following rate. But NOPEC offers 12 and 24-month fixed pricing options that a customer can enroll in today to start with their June meter read, or they have the option that in the fall, when they see what the January price is going to be, if they want to go into a fixed product, they have that option. It doesn't cost a customer anything to move in between the different product offerings that NOPEC offers. Sure, and that's true for gas and electric.
So you're saying that you're cheaper than the standard utility companies now?
We will be starting in June, and so I always like to clarify, NOPEC never ever claims to be the cheapest price in the market. What we do promise is that we'll always be in the bottom third of competitive offers, so we'll be in the fight. But on any given day, you can go on apples to apples and you can find somebody that's offering a point in time price that may be lower than ours. I always caution customers just to make sure that you check the terms and conditions of that contract before you sign anything, so that you don't get taken advantage of.
One of the questions I've heard a few times, and I want to make sure I'm asking the correct answer. Why are they automatically on? Why do they have to opt out? Why isn't it the other way?
So back in 1999 and 2000, when the state legislature instituted aggregation programs, what they did was they looked at the country and they saw what other states were doing. The whole point of having governmental aggregation programs is so that your customers experience a lower cost, obtain competitive rates, and thus save money. The states that had opt-out aggregation programs had a much higher participation rate, and thus you could demonstrate more savings over time in the utility costs than states that had opt-in. And so for the opt-in states, there was virtually very little participation, and customers weren't realizing the benefit of their state having deregulated. So here in Ohio, they chose the opt-out model. So it's the state rule that we have to follow. NOPEC doesn't set that. Columbus set it in the early 2000s.
Ms. Davis?
I have a question. You mentioned something about you could stay with your rate for 12 to 24 months if you wanted to, or you could, something about opt-in for the 12 months or 24 months, or
So
what did you mention?
what we have, everybody automatically starts on what we
Gets
call
it.
our standard program rate, which is our standard offering. But we also offer other products, and so you could choose a 12-month fixed price or a 24 fixed month price. Or if you're interested in renewable energy, we also have a product that's 100% renewable product. We also have a variable rate program for electricity that's always going to be 6% less than what the utilities price is, but because it's going to be so high, 6% off of that is not going to really be competitive. So that's what, and we offer those kind of offerings for natural gas too.
Well, for the electrical, go ahead.
No, I just, so that, make it clear if I had, I'm sorry. You said if we don't do anything, we don't fill out the opt-out card, we automatically are enrolled.
Correct. Yeah, you will be in the village's aggregation
For
program.
both the gas and the electric.
Correct.
If I can read right, but then you said in the fall,
Yes.
say we just stay in the NOPEC, I've been, and you don't sign up for 12 to 24. In December, your rates are gonna change, or in January, December, January.
They could change, and we'll publish that price 30 days in advance.
But 30 days in advance, say in November, you publish that price, and then can we lock in for 12 to 24 months at that time?
Correct. Yep.
Well, let me ask you this, with the price that we're going to be going into now, can you commit to a 24-month based on that rate, or does 24 months have a higher rate because of the fact that you're expanding into another year and you don't know what your rates are gonna be?
Correct. So currently, the 12-month fixed rate is 6.87, I believe. You can quote me on these numbers, but I'm close. And then the 24-month is like 6.895. So they're only a couple cents higher than what the standard program rate is, and they're pretty comparative, close to one another. So they're in the 6.8. So even if you do that, you're still significantly below than what the utility is offering at 12.2.
And and how do we sign up for that? Will we have that in our information, like we mail out your information, or does that something specific?
No, you could go online anytime to nopec.org and check our pricing, and then if a fixed, option is something that you're interested in, all you have to do is just call our customer care and say, I'd like to be in a fixed price. We'll get some information from you and take it from there.
Okay, same with the gas, if there was gas. or
Correct.
whatever. Okay, thank you.
Again, you restate your major competitor, what's gonna happen to them in June?
The utilities price is going to change, and so they're gonna go from a 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour price to a 12.2 cent kilowatt hour price. Which is similar to what happened to us in terms of the market, they had to buy high. We have put in place several safer, in 23 years, NOPEC never ever had the issue that it had before. Most people had no idea who we were. We were doing so well and doing such a good job, we were almost invisible. We've added some safeguards, and along with some additional oversight from our regulator to make sure that what happened last year doesn't happen again. So we were already aggressive about competitive pricing, and now we've brought in some third-party consultant help to do even more than what we were doing already. But I would say, think about when you drive past the gas station. Natural gas and electricity is just a different segment of the overall energy market. Weather affects pricing, regulatory changes in Columbus or Washington DC affects it. There's a variety of things that go into when you look at a price at a point in time, in terms of your energy costs. The cheapest energy is the energy you don't use, and so, I have a 10-year-old daughter, turn off the light, there's a waiting room, please. So, the packet that I gave you is, the first page is just a reminder of the things that we do for your community. There are FAQs for both the gas and electric program. Keep those handy, as you get calls from residents. Chances are they're asking you a question that's answered on those pages. There's another great resource in there, an example of how to read a utility bill. That's a great resource. And then the last page is for those residents that want to go out, and there's a backside to that last page with the real good information on it. For those residents that do want to shop competitively and make a different choice than the aggregation program, those are just some guidelines that we recommend, questions they ask as they interact with other utility suppliers, just to make sure that they don't get taken advantage of. Our terms and conditions are one page. Others, there's several pages of very heavy legalese and things like that, so just be careful. But these are great resources available, and these are all on our website too, so you can direct a resident to the FAQ is on their website kind of thing. And so we try to be as transparent as possible and share that information.
Do you have these in digital?
Yeah, they're on there. So if you go to nopec.org and you go under the communities tab, there's a member community toolkit. All of that information is there. So if you're a counselor that's active on social media, there are digital images and already pre-packaged language that you can just download and share. If you do a community newsletter, that information's there. If you want to put it on the village's website, we try to make it as easy as possible.
You said in the members tab?
Yep, communities tab, and it's called Member Community Toolkit. But anybody can access it. It's, if a resident went on there, they can see that information too.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Thanks for all the information. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm here as a resource, don't hesitate. If you need something, let me know. If you have a community event or a ward meeting and you say it'd be nice just to have you there to answer questions or something like that, you just let me know. I'm very happy to do that. Appreciate your time. I hope you get a good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Oh, did you get one?
I'll open up the floor for public comment. Please, if you approach the podium, please give your name and address to the council clerk.
Karen House, Oakwood Village. I actually wasn't gonna say anything today, but, okay. I wanted to provide you the information you had said to support, and I was gonna give that to you, but different direction now. When I make a statement, at a council meeting, I'm very careful to not accuse or assert anything. Because your minute supports the discussion. And the inquiry supports the statement. At the council meeting in December of 2022, on second read, the appropriations was presented to council, and I asked the clerk of council for the attachment. She stated that she didn't have the attachment yet, and that you were still working on it. I asked you about it in your office. We had a one-on-one discussion about that. You stated, Brian, that you were working on it. I said, okay, so as a result of that, council had a special council meeting, if you recall. At that time, the appropriations presented to council did not have an attachment. I asked you about it, and you said you were gonna have it for council at the next council meeting. Council then had to put on a special council meeting to address just that appropriations for 2023. But when you said it's never happened, that you've always done that, when we have conversations one-on-one, I don't bring it to council, but it carries the narrative that what I stated or asked about was not true. And I have no reason to come before council or come before the residents to make an assertion and just make up something, just for the sake of doing that. The whole purpose of why I said it is that I asked council, please don't pass legislation dealing with financial money without attachments. If the ordinance reads, the preamble says, an attachment, council should be passing legislation with an attachment so they can make an assertive effort and a decision, a proper decision, to pass a budget. So to imply that you always makes it out like I made this up, and I don't appreciate that because I've never came to you and implied something that wasn't true or that you had not confirmed. You had stated that you hadn't finished it yet. And to make that, it's in the minutes to imply that I just made that up. I don't appreciate that, and it's in the minutes. So again, I was bringing this just for, the law director Clymer, because he said, can you provide supporting documentation? Before the previous council person left, she said that she still didn't have it. So then, that is when I went on, she said, but if you can go on the website at some point, he will give it to me. I said, so how did council pass a budget without seeing it? And she said to me, that is something I have to ask you. And I followed you in your office and I had to sit down and me and you had a conversation about it. So I just wanted that for the record, that I did not say anything that was false. And I wouldn't do that to the residents, or I wouldn't say that, a false statement about the finance director. I have nothing to gain from that. It was just that I was asking council to not pass council or not to pass legislation without supporting documentation so they know what they're passing. And I think that's a fair ask, particularly me being as a resident. I don't appreciate that, so I will refer to the minutes. Even back in December 30th, 2021, the same action occurred. So much so that Councilwoman Harden asked, if we pass this legislation, will you then provide us the documentation? And you said yes. I asked you about that. Can I have the documentation? The previous council clerk said she didn't have it. So why is it that every other appropriations has an attachment, but the ones that I've been asking about does not? Because it was not there. I'm sure that you intended to.
I'm just saying, council should never pass legislation that you don't see dealing with numbers. How do you know what you're passing? It's not to say that he's gonna be doing something dishonest, but how do you pass a document without having the appropriate budget in front of you?
May I ask?
Yes.
What you're speaking of is that we have, during the finance committee hearings and the meetings, we have numerous meetings, and there are numerous adjustments made to them. As a matter of fact, the last one was just a thing that we said, okay, everybody, and we had the document in the budget in front of us, and we said, okay, everything is fine. And then after that meeting, before we passed the budget, I said, we're going to take another 66,000 out of recreation. And the mayor offered 22,000 out of recreation. I said, no, we're gonna take 66,000, which was an increase from the previous year. So the budget was approved, all of the questions was answered as a matter of record. And the budget was approved and all that. And then Brian had to present the budget with those two additional changes of the deduction of the 23,000 and the 66,000 that we had required, and then we went and passed it.
I'm referring to 2021 and 2022, and I was here at the council meeting when I asked where was the attachment. You stated I wasn't even gonna pass it because we need to see the attachment, and the only way you're gonna pass it is you're gonna you said you would do a special council meeting.
Right.
Those are the two I'm
Okay, I
talking
understand.
about. I'm not referring to 2023 at all.
Okay, I understand.
But
Mhm.
again, I only came to provide the documentation to support what I said. And,
We understand that too.
and
Okay.
I do not appreciate that statement, Brian, because you tell me to come to you and have a conversation with you, one-on-one, and I did that. And then to come to council and say, you always present that. Sometimes stuff happens that maybe you just didn't. I'm just asking, can I have that, and that council do not pass legislation until you do? Because I feel like it's in the minutes, we had a conversation, you had good intentions, you were working on it, I have no reason to question what you say. But in the same breath, if I'm gonna bring it to council, I'm not gonna bring something to council without supporting documentation, because I know that's a serious charge to say you didn't do something, and then there's no backup for it. And then I asked for the attachment, and you said you were working on it. And we ended that conversation as such at that meeting in your office.
Yeah, I didn't really ask you to come in, I did it out of courtesy,
I-
because we discussed it,
Oh,
and you came in, but, I see how this
What are-
I see how this plays out. I, just as the council chairman has said, I've always added numerous hours of input and giving information. I submitted those exhibits before those meetings. It's been a lot of, change in staffing here in the council clerk's office. So whether she had the attachment or not, I did submit the attachment. I've never called you out your name to call you a liar. I always try to be a respectful gentleman. I've been here almost 17 years in the village, passing these budgets, staying in the black, and providing council with the information they needed. And it hasn't been no different for the last 17 years I've been here. So I never called you a liar. I've always respected you, Ms. House. I continue to do that and to move forward and give council and the residents and work hard for them, give them the information they need. It's always there. But I never called you out your name to call you a liar. I'll continue to add the exhibits
And that
as
is all I asked for.
formality. These exhibits that have been passed, that was forwarded to the council body, has been approved by the state auditor, also submitted to the county. So it's other organizations here that's in compliance with the whole process. So I'm not doing nothing hideous or anything. It's the same process I've been doing. I have never called you a liar. I didn't invite you into my office, but I did it as a courtesy. But I see how that plays out. But
Brian,
no disrespect. I respect all your
Excuse me,
comments
may I have
tonight
the
about the
Let me just-
situation.
Okay, let me just explain one thing.
Yes,
We understand Mrs. House position.
yes.
We understand your position. Mrs. House, you have the floor.
again, I don't know where you see this is going. I don't know what that means, but I will say this. I asked council in the future, I had referenced in the future, please don't pass documentation, because when I asked for it as a resident, I wanted to see what was being passed. No, you did not ask or invite me to come to your office. After council meeting, I said, can I talk to you? And you said yes. I don't know what you mean by you see where this is going or what that implies, but what I will say is this. I will never come to council again making an assertion without supporting documentation. I just didn't appreciate that you stated a comment that I made, you came in first thing and that was what you addressed, is that you've always presented attachments. And as I acknowledge,
It is not.
It is true.
Well, wait a minute, the council, do not respond, we already know. that
Okay.
You're saying that it isn't true, you're saying that you gave it to the clerk, and we have no verification of that because the clerk isn't here. But the bottom
We do have
line,
verification of that, we are all sitting here, like.
well, wait a minute, you're not recognized because the floor,
Right now. Don't
please,
hit the gavel
please,
on me,
well,
like,
that's the
if you're not
decorum
gonna
of.
say something about him
Wait,
saying something
I
that's not factual.
just did say something to him, and I just asked him
You
not to
simply have no
respond
way
and
of
to let
knowing.
Mrs. House, you have the floor. Please, go ahead.
anyway,
I understand exactly what you said because you mentioned that to us before, and I agree
mentioned
with
it
you.
respectfully to you
Right.
guys, that is all I said.
Right, I understand.
I just want to be sure that I said on record,
Mhm.
that I did not imply that you were doing something nefarious, or that you intentionally deceived council. I did not say that. I said, where is the attachment? And that is what you shared with me. I did not bring that to council because you said you were gonna get it to him. And then Johnny said he would have a special council meeting to address that. So I don't know where that came from. That is just like not even attached to what I just said. Again, I'm not implying or implicating anything. I don't have to do that. The minutes speak for itself. Whether you've been here 17 years or not, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying right now. And as far as what you're saying about the auditors, and they've never had a problem with your audits or whatever, I didn't say that. I never said that one time about anything about the auditors made some assertion that you're not doing your job for 17 years. But that seems to be something that you felt you needed to do because I wasn't attacking you, but you certainly made the statement with the implication that I said that, because I didn't. And it is in the minutes what I asked for, and it is in the minutes that Johnny said, you know what, we're not gonna pass this piece of legislation until you do it. And that's all I have to say, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other residents? Please give your name and address to the council clerk.
My name is Sharon Macklin, 7473 Oak Hill. I just want to say that this was very interesting. I'm a school board member now, and I would like you to know that we have an invention that's gonna put Oakwood on the invention map. My husband invented a grill that just went berserk. We have 42 companies in America looking at it and 6 companies out of the country looking at it. So they do, I'll let you know when, but they do, some of them do wanna come and see where we're from.
And you're gonna be at our concerts, right?
I'll be at every concert.
Well, let me just say this, if you don't mind, Ms. Macklin. I don't think your husband grill work, and not until he barbecue us some ribs and some chicken and some other stuff, will we be able to make that evaluation. Now, when that happens, we'll
Well, I'll
be
be
able
able
to.
to do that, cause this grill can cook 36 slabs of ribs and 28 half chickens at one time. So that's no problem for me, you know that. But I just want Oakwood to know that my husband has built a grill, which is gonna be over $1 million grill. So if anybody would like to see it, I have it on my phone, so, but, a lot of people wanna come to Oakwood to see where we're from and what kind of city we're dealing with, so. So, thank you.
I thought your husband was Mike, not George Foreman.
It's Mike George Foreman Jr.
Ms. Macklin, councilperson.
I did see the bill last summer, and it's very impressive.
or you have to see the modifications of it.
Modified.
They modified it.
Okay.
They have, now it has the racks, they automatically come out, you don't have to pull them out. It has the water fountain, it has the oven, it has the smoker, it's on a trailer, it's, after this, I'll show you the video. It's gonna be a commercial on it, I think in 3 to 4 weeks, there'll be a commercial on TV.
It is awesome.
Elaine, remember my pillow? Now there's my pillow point two.
This one has,
I'll close the floor for public comments if there's none, and we will proceed with today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item on the agenda, the only item on the agenda.
Yes. Thank you.
Ordinance 2023-14, an emergency ordinance appointing Deanna Hammond as assistant clerk of village council and setting forth the duties for such position.
That's on first reading. So, if there's no other business, would you want to return to executive session at this meeting, or do you want to wait till the 12th? Ms. Williams?
The 11th is fine. Most of the council is not here.
Okay. Then may I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Warren?
Yes.
Gager,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay.